Have you ever watched someone you love slowly disappear from your life without leaving their chair? In 2025, over 1/3 of seniors wake up each morning to complete silence. No phone calls, no visitors, no meaningful conversations. It's not just loneliness anymore. It's a hidden epidemic that increases their risk of heart disease and depression while quietly destroying the lives of millions of older adults. What's even more heartbreaking is that most families don't realize what's happening until it's too late. These aren't just statistics. They're real people facing invisible struggles that nobody talks about. Today we're exposing the 12 daily realities that seniors are living through right now, starting with the most surprising one. The silent epidemic of digital isolation. Julie sits at her kitchen table every morning with her coffee and watches her phone stay silent. She knows her family is talking. She knows they're sharing photos of her great-grandchildren's first steps, planning surprise birthday parties, and discussing holiday arrangements. She knows because when she finally gets that weekly phone call from her daughter, she hears fragments of conversations that happened days ago in group chats she can't access. Her son set up a smartphone for her 2 years ago with the best intentions. He showed her how to make calls and take pictures, but when he tried to explain group messaging, video calls, and family sharing apps, her mind went blank. The buttons seemed to multiply before her eyes. The screen moved too fast. Every tap brought up something unexpected. She nodded and smiled, pretending to understand, but when he left, she put the phone in a drawer and went back to her old flip phone. Technology became the family's primary language, while Julie remained fluent only in phone calls and face-to-face conversations. Her granddaughter sends videos to the family chat that everyone finds hilarious. Her nephew shares job updates and relationship news in real time. Her great-grandchildren's soccer games get live commentary from parents who can't attend. Julie discovers these moments happened when someone mentions them in passing during her scheduled phone calls. But by then, the excitement has faded and the moment feels stale. Research shows that 54% of older adults feel socially isolated, and Julie experiences this reality daily. These aren't seniors who refuse to adapt. These are grandparents who want desperately to stay connected, but find themselves locked out of the digital spaces where their families now live. Julie's isolation compounds when she misses her grandson's college graduation announcement because it only went to the family group chat. She finds out 3 weeks later during a routine call from her daughter, who assumes she already knows. The shame burns in her chest as she realizes she missed sending congratulations, missed asking about his plans, missed being part of the celebration in real time. Her granddaughter's engagement photos circulated for days among family members who commented and shared excitement, but Julie saw them for the first time printed out and handed to her during a visit. The cascading effects multiply. Birthday reminders now come through calendar apps and group chat notifications. Family reunions get planned through shared documents and polls. Emergency updates about health scares or urgent news spread instantly through family networks. But Julie remains in the dark until someone remembers to call her directly. She becomes the afterthought, the person who gets filled in later rather than included in the moment. The shame she carries grows heavier each day. Julie worked as a bank teller for 37 years, managing complex transactions and helping customers with financial technology. She raised 4 children, managed a household budget, and navigated every challenge life threw at her. But now she feels stupid because she can't figure out how to join a video call or respond to a text message with a photo attached. The woman who taught her children to be resourceful and figure things out now feels too embarrassed to admit she needs help with something her 8-year-old great-grandson does effortlessly. Her body begins responding to this digital isolation in ways she doesn't immediately connect. Her sleep becomes restless as she lies awake wondering what family news she missed that day. She checks her old flip phone repeatedly, hoping for calls that don't come because everyone assumes she's connected to the family chat. Her appetite decreases as meals become solitary experiences without the social connection that digital communication provides for her family. She finds herself feeling anxious about family gatherings, worried she'll reveal how much she doesn't know about recent family events. The physical symptoms intensify when she realizes her family's communication patterns have completely shifted. Her daughter used to call twice a week, but now calls every other week. because she stays updated on Julie's life through brief responses to family group messages. Her son assumes she's seeing the photos he shares of his kids because he posts them to the family chat daily. The grandchildren think she's not interested in their lives because she doesn't respond to their messages with heart emojis and encouraging comments like everyone else. A cruel misunderstanding develops that neither side recognizes. Julie's family believes she prefers traditional phone calls and doesn't want to be bothered with constant digital communication. They respect what they perceive as her preference for less frequent, more meaningful conversations. Meanwhile, Julie interprets their reduced phone calls as evidence that they don't want to talk to her anymore. She assumes they find her boring or burdensome, not realizing they think they're being considerate by not overwhelming her with technology. The emotional distance grows as Julie becomes increasingly disconnected from the daily rhythms of her family's life. She misses the small moments that build intimacy, the shared jokes that develop over time, the ongoing conversations that create closeness. When she does talk to family members, she feels like an outsider catching up on stories rather than someone who's been part of the ongoing narrative. Julie's situation represents a massive shift in how families communicate, and millions of seniors find themselves on the wrong side of this digital divide. The technology that promises to connect families is actually creating unprecedented isolation for the generation that needs connection most. These seniors aren't rejecting modern communication out of stubbornness. They're drowning in complexity while their families assume they're choosing simplicity. The most heartbreaking aspect of Julie's story is how easily it could be solved. Patient teaching, simplified communication plans, and family members who understand the learning curve could bridge this gap. Voice-to-text features, large button keyboards, and simplified messaging apps designed for seniors offer pathways to inclusion. Video calling tutorials, family tech support sessions, and gradual introduction of new features could help seniors like Julie rejoin family conversations. But pride prevents Julie from asking for help, and assumptions prevent her family from recognizing her isolation. She continues sitting at her kitchen table each morning, drinking coffee in silence while her family shares their lives in digital spaces she can't access. The connection she craves exists just beyond her reach, blocked not by physical distance but by the fear of admitting she needs help learning the language her family now speaks fluently. Yet digital isolation is just one layer of the daily anxiety that keeps seniors awake at night, worrying about problems that feel impossible to solve. The invisible weight of financial anxiety. Robert wakes up at 3:17 a.m. and his mind immediately starts calculating. His pension check was $2,847 last month. His Social Security brought in another $1,923. The house payment is $1,156. Property taxes went up again this year to $347 monthly. He has $127,000 in his savings account, money he accumulated through 42 years of working at the power plant and living below his means. On paper, Robert should sleep peacefully. Instead, he reaches for the calculator on his nightstand and starts the math again. The numbers that keep him awake aren't the ones in his bank account. They're the ones at the grocery store, the gas station, and the pharmacy. His electric bill jumped from $89 to $156 over the winter. The same hamburger meat that cost $4.99 a pound last year now costs $7.49. His blood pressure medication increased from $23 to $41 for a month's supply when his insurance changed formularies. Every price increase feels like a personal attack on his financial security. Robert's morning routine starts with checking his bank balance online. He logs in before his first cup of coffee, scanning the account for any unexpected charges or automatic payments he might have forgotten. He checks it again after breakfast, then once more before lunch. The balance rarely changes between these checks, but the ritual provides a temporary sense of control over finances that feel increasingly unpredictable. This compulsive checking behavior reflects the broader anxiety that research shows affects many seniors, with studies indicating that 28% reported worse anxiety during the pandemic as financial pressures mounted. His trips to the grocery store have become exercises in comparison shopping and mental arithmetic. He walks the aisles with a calculator app open on his phone, comparing price per ounce between brands he never bothered to consider before. A jar of peanut butter that once took 30 seconds to select now requires 5 minutes of analysis. He finds himself buying smaller sizes of items to reduce the immediate cost, even though he knows the per unit price is higher. The psychological relief of spending $3.49 instead of $6.99 outweighs the mathematical logic. Robert's anxiety manifests in a pattern of declining invitations and avoiding activities that once brought him joy. When his daughter invites him to dinner at a restaurant, he calculates the cost of the meal, the gas to drive there, and the expected tip. The total might be $35, money he can easily afford, but the expense feels frivolous when he's spent the week agonizing over the price of groceries. He starts making excuses, claiming he's not feeling well or has other plans, rather than admitting the cost concerns him. His monthly poker game with friends becomes a source of stress rather than entertainment. The $10 buy-in hasn't changed in 3 years, but Robert now sees it as money that should go toward his increasing utility bills. He skips the game twice, then 3 times, until his friends stop calling. His absence from social activities isn't about the money itself, but about the mental energy he spends calculating and recalculating whether he can afford these small pleasures. Robert's fixed income creates a psychological trap where every price increase feels like a pay cut. His pension and social security remain stable, but they lose purchasing power as inflation drives up the cost of everything he needs. The hamburger meat, the gasoline, the prescription medications, and the property taxes all increase while his income stays the same. He experiences this as becoming poorer each month, even though his savings account balance remains steady. The grocery store becomes a battlefield where Robert confronts his changing financial reality. He remembers when a cart full of groceries cost $75 and now finds himself spending $125 for the same items. He switches from name brands to store brands, then from store brands to generic options. He buys day-old bread and marked-down produce, habits that save money but reinforce his feeling of financial decline. His utility bills create monthly anxiety cycles as Robert watches his electricity and gas usage obsessively. He keeps the thermostat at 65 degrees in winter and 78 degrees in summer, temperatures that save money but reduce his comfort. He unplugs appliances when not in use and turns off lights as he moves through his house. These conservation efforts save small amounts of money but consume significant mental energy as he constantly monitors and adjusts his usage. The shame Robert feels about his financial anxiety runs deeper than the actual money concerns. He worked hard for 4 decades, saved consistently, and planned for retirement responsibly. The financial security he built should provide peace of mind, but instead he feels like he's failing at managing money in retirement. He watches financial news and reads articles about seniors living comfortably, wondering why he can't shake the constant worry about expenses. Robert's medication decisions reveal how financial anxiety can become dangerous. When his doctor prescribes a new medication for his arthritis that costs $67 per month, Robert fills the prescription once, then stretches the pills by taking them every other day instead of daily. He doesn't tell his doctor about this adjustment because he's embarrassed to admit the cost concerns him. The reduced effectiveness of the medication leads to increased pain, but he convinces himself he's being financially responsible. The psychological burden of financial anxiety often exceeds the actual financial risk. Robert's savings account provides a substantial buffer for unexpected expenses, and his monthly income covers his basic needs with room to spare. Yet his mind operates in constant crisis mode, treating every expenditure as a potential threat to his security. Research confirms that financial stress leads to poor sleep quality, with 19% of seniors reporting worse sleep due to money worries, creating a cycle where anxiety disrupts rest and poor sleep increases anxiety. Robert's financial anxiety can be managed through budgeting strategies that provide clear spending guidelines and perspective shifts that separate emotional reactions from financial reality. Creating specific categories for entertainment, gifts, and discretionary spending can reduce the decision fatigue that makes every purchase feel like a major financial choice. But financial stress often intertwines with other daily burdens that seniors face, creating layers of complexity that extend far beyond money management. The medication maze nobody talks about. One of the most overwhelming daily challenges emerges from what should be a simple routine: taking medication. Margaret's kitchen counter looks like a small pharmacy exploded. 12 prescription bottles line up in front of a coffee maker, each with labels containing instructions that seem designed to confuse rather than clarify. Take with food. Take on empty stomach. Take 2 hours before meals. Take at bedtime unless you experience dizziness. Don't take with calcium. Avoid grapefruit. May cause drowsiness or insomnia. The contradictions pile up like a cruel joke, and Margaret stares at them every morning wondering how she's supposed to follow instructions that seem to cancel each other out. Her blood pressure medication needs to be taken first thing in the morning, but her stomach medication requires food, and her thyroid pill must be taken on an empty stomach an hour before eating. Her diabetes medication goes with breakfast, but her cholesterol pill works best at dinner. Her arthritis medication can upset her stomach, so it needs food, but not the same meal as her iron supplement because they interfere with each other. Margaret has become a human chemistry experiment, trying to time and space medications to avoid dangerous interactions while ensuring each one works effectively. Seniors now average 8 medications daily, transforming medication management from a simple routine into a complex coordination challenge that requires military precision and pharmaceutical knowledge most people don't possess. These aren't just prescriptions from one doctor treating one condition. Margaret sees a cardiologist for her heart, an endocrinologist for her diabetes, a rheumatologist for her arthritis, an orthopedist for her back pain, and a psychiatrist for the depression that developed after her husband died. Each specialist prescribes medications within their expertise, but nobody takes responsibility for managing the interactions between all the drugs Margaret swallows daily. Her weekly pill organizer has become the most important item in her house. She spends every Sunday afternoon sorting medications into tiny compartments marked with days and times. Morning, noon, evening, bedtime. The ritual takes 45 minutes because she double-checks each pill against the bottles, counts carefully, and reviews the timing requirements. One mistake could mean taking her blood thinner twice or missing her heart medication entirely. The weight of this responsibility sits on her shoulders constantly because she lives alone and has no backup system if she makes an error. Margaret's insurance changes which medications they cover without warning, forcing her to switch between brand names and generics that look completely different but supposedly work the same way. Last month, her insurance stopped covering her preferred diabetes medication and substituted a generic version that comes in different colored pills. The pharmacist assured her they're identical, but Margaret spent 3 weeks convinced she was taking the wrong medication because the pills looked nothing like what she'd been taking for 2 years. Medication errors among seniors living alone represent a dangerous reality that most families don't fully understand. Margaret accidentally took her morning medications twice last Tuesday because she couldn't remember if she'd already taken them. The duplicate dose of her blood pressure medication made her dizzy and nauseous for the entire day, but she didn't call anyone because she felt embarrassed about the mistake. She's developed a system of moving pill bottles from one side of the counter to the other after taking them. But on busy mornings or when she's distracted, the system breaks down. The side effects from multiple medications create a cascade of new health problems that require additional medications. Margaret's blood pressure medication causes ankle swelling, so her doctor prescribed a diuretic. The diuretic depletes her potassium, requiring a potassium supplement. The potassium supplement upsets her stomach, leading to an acid reducer. Each solution creates new problems that require pharmaceutical fixes, building a house of chemical cards that grows more unstable with each addition. The financial pressure of medication costs forces Margaret into impossible choices between health needs and other essential expenses. When her insurance stopped covering her arthritis medication, the monthly cost jumped to $347. She tried stretching the pills by taking them every other day instead of daily, but the increased joint pain made simple tasks like opening jars and climbing stairs excruciating. She eventually asked a doctor for samples and generic alternatives, but the reduced effectiveness meant accepting a lower quality of life to maintain financial stability. Margaret quietly discontinued her expensive cholesterol medication 6 months ago because the monthly cost strained her budget, and she convinced herself that her other heart medications provided sufficient protection. She hasn't told her cardiologist about this decision because she's embarrassed about the financial concerns and worried he'll lecture her about the importance of following prescribed treatments. Her sleep medication creates a particularly troubling dilemma because it helps her sleep but causes morning grogginess that increases her fall risk. She's fallen twice in the past year while getting up during the night, both times when the sleep medication made her unsteady. She's afraid to stop taking it because her insomnia was unbearable, but she's equally afraid of falling and breaking a hip. Managing medications has become Margaret's part-time job, consuming hours each week coordinating pharmacy visits, insurance approvals, doctor appointments, and timing requirements. The mental energy devoted to medication management leaves less capacity for enjoying life, maintaining relationships, and pursuing interests that could improve her overall health and happiness. Yet even as Margaret struggles with the complexity of managing her health, another challenge quietly grows in the background, one that affects her emotional well-being in ways she's only beginning to recognize: the shrinking social circle crisis. This emotional isolation creates a ripple effect that touches every aspect of daily life. Dorothy sits in her living room on Thursday afternoon and realizes she hasn't spoken to another human being since Monday morning when the grocery store cashier asked if she wanted paper or plastic bags. 3 days of complete silence except for the voices coming from her television set. She talks back to the game show hosts and news anchors, but they don't respond to her comments about the weather or her opinions about the contestants. The sound of her own voice startles her because she's gone so long without using it for actual conversation. Her address book tells the story of a social circle that has steadily contracted over the past decade. Names crossed out in black ink mark friends who moved to warmer climates or assisted living facilities. Others are crossed out in red ink, marking those who passed away. Some entries have question marks beside them because Dorothy lost touch and doesn't know if they're still alive or where they might be living now. The book that once contained 47 close friends and regular acquaintances now has 12 people she could realistically call, and half of those relationships have grown distant due to circumstances beyond anyone's control. Making new friends at 74 feels like trying to learn a foreign language when everyone around you speaks fluently. Dorothy remembers how friendships formed naturally when she was younger through work colleagues, neighbors with children the same age, and shared activities that brought people together regularly. Her workplace friendships ended when she retired 8 years ago. The neighbors she knew best moved away or passed away, replaced by younger families who wave politely but don't invite her to backyard barbecues or block parties. The book club she joined disbanded when 3 members developed health problems and 2 others moved to different states. The traditional social structures that facilitated friendships throughout Dorothy's adult life have largely disappeared, leaving her without obvious places to meet people who share her interests and values. Churches have smaller congregations with fewer social activities. Community centers offer programs, but many require physical abilities Dorothy no longer possesses or transportation she can't manage. The casual interactions that once led to deeper friendships, like chatting with other parents at school events or bonding with co-workers during lunch breaks, simply don't exist in her current life structure. Dorothy's experience reflects a broader crisis affecting millions of seniors who face the frequent loss of peers and friends. This isn't about personality differences or social preferences, but about systematic changes in how communities function and how relationships are formed and maintained as people age. The pandemic accelerated Dorothy's social isolation by breaking routines and connections that took decades to build. Her weekly coffee meetings with 3 longtime friends stopped during lockdowns and never resumed because one friend developed anxiety about public spaces, another became a caregiver for her husband, and the third moved closer to her children. Dorothy's days stretch endlessly without the anchor points that social connections provide. She wakes up with no one to call about her plans for the day. She reads interesting articles in the newspaper but has no one to discuss them with. She watches movies that remind her of experiences she'd like to share, but her phone doesn't ring and she hesitates to call others, worried she might be interrupting their busier lives. Meals become solitary experiences where she eats while watching television, using the background noise to create an illusion of companionship. The silence becomes so complete that Dorothy sometimes turns on the radio in multiple rooms just to hear human voices throughout her house. She finds herself looking forward to telemarketing calls because they provide brief moments of interaction, even though she knows the callers don't actually care about her well-being. Physical limitations create additional barriers to maintaining existing friendships and forming new ones. Dorothy's arthritis makes it painful to drive at night, eliminating evening social activities and making her dependent on others for transportation. Her hearing loss makes group conversations difficult because she can't follow multiple people talking at once, leading her to avoid situations where she might feel confused or left out. Her reduced energy levels mean she can't keep up with friends who want to walk for exercise or spend long days at social events. The hidden barrier that keeps Dorothy from reaching out to family and friends is her fear of becoming a burden. She worries that calling her children too often will make them feel obligated to visit or spend time they don't have. She hesitates to ask friends for rides or companionship because she can't reciprocate the same level of help they provide. Her independence has always been important to her, but maintaining that independence now means accepting isolation rather than admitting she needs social connection and support. Dorothy's granddaughter lives 30 minutes away but works full-time and has 2 young children. Dorothy wants to be part of their lives but doesn't want to impose on their busy schedule. She assumes they don't have time for her and that asking to spend time together would create guilt and obligation. Meanwhile, her granddaughter assumes Dorothy prefers her independence and doesn't want to be bothered with the chaos of young children. Neither reaches out because both are trying to be considerate, creating a gap that widens over time. Community programs specifically designed to connect isolated seniors and intentional relationship building efforts can rebuild social connections that have been lost to time and circumstance. Senior centers with transportation services, intergenerational programs that pair seniors with younger volunteers, and neighborhood support networks can create new pathways to friendship and belonging for people like Dorothy who want connection but don't know how to find it. Yet even as social isolation deepens, many seniors face an even more complex challenge that strikes at the heart of their identity and self-worth as oncoming headlights create halos of blinding light against the dark November evening. The familiar drive home from his grandson's soccer game has become a test of nerves and willpower. Street signs blur into unreadable shapes. Lane markings disappear in the glare. Other cars seem to appear from nowhere, their red taillights multiplying like angry eyes in his peripheral vision. Frank grips the steering wheel tighter and drives 15 miles below the speed limit while cars pass him with obvious frustration. He knows he shouldn't be driving at night anymore, but admitting this means accepting that his independence is slipping away one ability at a time.